All right, good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's 4 minutes past 7 a.m. On this 11th day of May 2026. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Lo. I was just asking Giverson why he was not so happy given the results of Arsenal versus West Ham. I can smile about it. Arsenal beat West Ham 1-0. Okay, Giverson, I've done it for you. All right. Let's talk about the big issue in the house today. Africa Forward Summit is taking place today and tomorrow at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where President William Ruto is playing the host, co-hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron, which is going to be taking the center stage. And a lot is going to be happening in the capital city. I'm just going to get straight into it and we talk about it. What does it really mean for Africa? That is the big question here. The African interest groups wish to list several things when it comes to that. You know, some of the political leaders, even this country, have also trashed the same summit. And let's talk about that. What does this really mean? 11 of deals were signed yesterday. Let's talk about that as well. But before we get into that, let me introduce my guest. Let me start with Gordon Kachola, who is a foreign policy analyst. Gordon, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
As well as Edward Wenyonyi Umwami, researcher and analyst. Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you, Edward. It's a big day, and I think we are up to task as Kenya to host 30 heads of state and more than 3,000 delegates. Are we?
Well, from what you would call in terms of our conference diplomacy, we've hosted quite a bit of meetings from the climate summit some time back.
Yes.
You know, we've had, you know, the World Health Assembly just was hosted the other day, last week. So the WTO meetings, we've hosted quite a number of meetings. So, I mean, yes, in terms of our tourism sector, our conference sector, our delegations, that is good. But this is what we do in terms of countries organize such forums for purposes of not just the agenda of the day, but also ensuring that there's a lot of caucuses. So I am sure a lot of the engagements will not just be at KICC.
Yes.
There will be side events, there will be other meetings, there are other diplomatic engagements that are taking place. You saw yesterday with the president meeting the president of Sierra Leone, one of the agenda items was support for Judge Joaquin Ndungu to the ICC. So there is more to what is just at the agenda on the day in terms of the Forward Summit. A lot of the discussions are going to be on the sidelines. And this is a give and take. You know, these are give and take. So we are going to see a lot of engagements taking place between various presidents across.
Okay. Gordon, your opening remarks, because at this particular point, Kenya is playing a very big, let's say, a big brother role in Africa. But why the choice of Kenya to host this big event, so to speak?
I think the question why was clearly answered by President Emmanuel Macron yesterday when he said President Ruto has increasingly played an important role in the conversation that shapes the global leadership. And that is why they chose Kenya. They would have chosen any other country in Africa out of the French-speaking countries, but they chose Kenya because he says President Ruto has played increasingly important role in the global leadership. And that is the reason as to why. I think so far Kenya is recalibrating, Kenya is repositioning, and Kenya is not just contributing to the global conversation, but also helping reshape the global conversation.
Yeah.
Key among them is the financial architecture, which of course even Emmanuel Macron did appreciate. And you've seen that June this year, President Ruto will be headed for the G7 summit that will be held in Europe.
Yeah.
So that clearly tells you where Kenya is and where Kenya is headed as far as diplomacy is concerned.
Very good. On the front page of the local dailies, it's almost the same thing. Show of might. That's on the front page of this Daily Nation. Show of might. The two gentlemen, that is French President Emmanuel and Kenya President William Ruto. This Daily Nation says that Nairobi will welcomes over 50 nations at the global talks, the first role to be held in Anglophone Africa. And it says that it's kind of a diplomatic coup where Kenya today shines on the world stage, hosting world leaders, including heads of state, the UN Secretary General, and business executives for France-Africa Summit, a gathering that highlights the convening power of France President Emmanuel Macron and his co-host William Ruto. The forum is expected to reset the continent's ties with the former colonial power and advance new economic as well as political interests. The key word, Edward, here is to reset the continent's ties with the former colonial power. That is a heavy word.
It is a heavy word, and we have to take it in context. Some time back, we saw news that a number of countries, when Ghana sponsored a motion at the UN General Assembly on the issue to do with reparations, most of these countries, the colonial powers, voted against that. So it should not be left aside from Africa to understand the context you're playing with. The flirtation with colonial powers, at whose expense and at whose cost? Remember, the U.S. Secretary of State one time during the Munich conference in Germany talked about reintroducing the empire. And so we need to look at it from a context in terms of, yes, we are celebrating and saying we want to be able to have this engagement, but are we using the same terms that came about, you know, some time back when colonialism was being introduced? You know, when the conversations around reparations is being avoided by the same powers, what is our stake? When issues to do with the World Trade Organization and the imbalance around trade are being discussed, what is the conversation about these colonial powers? China just last week opened and said zero tariff to Africa. What are colonial powers talking to us about? They're talking to us about the IMF conditionalities. They're talking to us about the loan. And they're avoiding the main conversation on the table around a fair balancing and a fair playing ground. So we need to be able to ask ourselves, as we court them and as we engage with them, are we also putting hard questions to them? That, for me, will be an interesting conversation.
Because when you look at Africa, basically, Africa, we depend more on Europe, all right?
But they depend on us and our resources. Where is the extraction coming from? Where are the natural resources coming from? France is not here because of a goodwill. I mean, look at it. We need to be able to put France on the question in terms of why is it that in West Africa, Northern African countries, they are being told, you know what, exit. So when you're when someone who owes you land and resources, and your neighbor tells them that they cannot be able to cross through that path, and they say they want to be able to get a bit of your path, your land to cross, are they coming out of goodwill? We need to ask ourselves hard questions. So I think for me, the context here is that we need to have, this is a different conversation than what happened in Berlin. Right now it's 2026. We need to put some hard questions on the table. Maybe at Berlin we did have the right kind of representatives, and actually we didn't have any. They met, they petitioned.
Yes.
Right now, on our ground, on our land, we need to have some hard conversations. That, for me, is what we need to be able to be framing that conversation towards.
Great. But I mean, the colonial powers probably are just scratching their heads when they see France having a very keen eye on Africa. I will come to the question of when you look at China. We have been very good friends, and, you know, America and all that. But when you see Africa being, or France quoting Africa in general, and choosing Kenya, the colonial powers must be asking themselves whether they should also find their means and ways and reset, but France is taking the reset button faster than them.
Victor, we must appreciate the fact that the so-called colonial masters are no longer colonial masters. Today you are either a colony to yourself, or you imprison yourself. No one can imprison you. Why am I saying so? It is about interest. And you look at the headline of the Daily Nation. To me, it would have been, it's not even a show of might. It's interest at play. Because France is not coming here to get nothing. It's not coming to Africa to get nothing. Africa is not going to France to get nothing. Everyone has, there's a stake for each and everyone who is going into this. So when negotiating, and this is where I've always stuck my neck out, whenever we go for negotiations, who are we sending to negotiate for us? And what do we want out of these negotiations? We all know, without Africa, the entire world production, in whatever form and in whatever you want to call it, be it in the electronics, be it in agriculture, whatever you want to call it, there is nothing that the other world has that Africa is not having.
Yeah.
Today, it is only Africa that the entire global arable land, Africa has 60 to 63% arable land is in Africa. Why are we importing food? And those are the conversations we must have. Who can begin to invest if we don't have the capacity to invest in ourselves so that we can produce enough for us and to export? Who has the capacity to come and build that capacity in us, not to give us, but to build that capacity in us so that we can also begin to be producers? If it is about mineral resources, we have almost what it takes to take us from what we are in now to pure green energy. Are we negotiating correctly? That is where all African nations must look into.
Okay. Dr. Evelyn Oginda, karibu sana.
Thank you.
You must have found it so hard accessing here.
Yeah, of course. I've really done a lot of walking, but I'm fine.
You need to do more. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How is this for, again, to Wanjiku, there's that person watching out there, they really need to understand how important this summit is, because even us accessing this place was a bit of a problem. But what should be running in the minds of Wanjiku, because the summit is coming here, 30 heads of state, delegations from across the continent, some of them are even from Europe and all that. But what is running through the minds of Wanjiku?
I think what is running through the mind, and you see, Kenya, we are a way of passing information from an elite side of view. Because, you know, I would say Wanjiku is actually confused. They're only seeing white people coming here, and then they're striking a deal. You know, they're used to this thing, deal. Yeah. And the elite, they are not finding, or those closely involved into the summit arrangement and stuff, they are not breaking this to the normal understanding, because you'd ask, you know, Wanjiku would ask herself, so what? We are the forward summit, so what? Because I think they are confused. They are only seeing that there are deals that are taking place, but they really don't understand how it trickles down to them. How is it going to answer their questions? If you ask me in a simple term, instead of us maybe magnifying or looking at this thing in so broad way, first and foremost, I would like to say that Kenya is at least a country of interest in Africa. We should feel so proud for it, for the summit to come and be hosted here in this country. So it means, in the real sense, we are already earning some income. You know, 30 heads of state is not a walk in the park. There are so many. Yeah. We're already earning some kind of foreign income. And then when it comes to the real problems of this country, I think the first problem that we have is the joblessness of the young people in this country. And you see, teach me how to fish. Don't give me the fish. Teach me how to fish. Is this in the summit, in whatever way they want to talk about them? You know, there's this abstract way of saying, we will do this, come up with industries. What have we done in terms of making it very affordable for the foreign investor to come and invest our country? What laws have we put in place? What policies are driving these new investors in our country? How are we making sure as a country that the young people are captured in terms of job opportunities? How are you going to explain, Mama Mboga, what is happening? So what when they come? So what? What is it? And the people in Europe, is it that they are a charity organization? Of course, it's a no. Are you careful in that discussion, in that we are not going to throw our towel in and they throw theirs halfway in? Because are they gaining from us? Are we gaining from each other? What is this arrangement that is, according to me, the glaring part? What should focus in this summit is the joblessness in this country. We have a lot of manpower. We have engineers. We have people who have gone to school. Young people have graduated. How is it first going to solve this issue of joblessness? How are we going to even have global borrowing? How are we going even like in the African countries? Everybody is using their own currency.
Yeah.
How can we break the language barrier? How can we break all these barriers to solve real-time, to find real-time solutions to what is ailing the Kenyans specifically? Yeah.
Edward, it seems that it's going to make a shift from aid to partnership, from the traditional donor recipient.
It's not a charity thing. According to me, if it can be a charity thing, and then that is looking down upon us.
Yeah.
Especially now that we're heading to Singapore. Are you seeing?
Okay. When you look at the whole context, this is one of the critical aspects that this summit tries to achieve or to solve. To make that shift from aid for us to become more partners, so that we don't depend so much on our donors and all that. Is it going to achieve that?
It is going to be a very lonely walk for us to be able to get to a place of actualization on the partnership. Why do I say so? Because this is not the first kind of summit. Japan has an Africa summit. Turkey has Africa summit. If you look at China, it has an ambitious Africa summit that actually you can see the dividends that China puts on the table. So my question is always around the challenge with the European powers when they are framing the African summit, that it's hot air at the surface, fluff, pictures, all this nice organization and talk about, partnership and changing the compact. But when it comes to actualization, like, for example, we have been having all these meetings around the COP series, the climate change conversations. But when it comes for them to actually look at the kind of commitment they need to follow through, there's always a lot of lagging behind in terms of their commitments to African countries. So even if you look at any other conversation that is happening, especially with the European partners, follow-through is a big problem. And when we are asking, for example, even the European partners to support, for example, Africa's quest at the UN Security Council, for example, if we want to have a permanent seat, they are the ones, some of the people who normally block. When we are asking that we need our debts reorganized and restructured, they sit at the World Bank and the IMF body, but they're not opening up their markets. So we need to ask ourselves, are these just photo ops? Or are they, engagements that we're having to excite people, but at the end of the day, when it comes to opening up the markets, right now, Victor, if you want to go to Europe or any other European country, you're going to have a long list of around 21 requirements. But when they're coming here, they'll just get their visa at the airport. Why are we not having that conversation? They're asking you to give them a bond, for heaven's sake. They're asking you to give them a bank statement, for heaven's sake. We are not asking them that. Our foreign affairs ministries are not asking them that. They are giving them visas on arrival. How many countries in Europe are giving Africans visas on arrival? Then they will flip it back to us and tell us it's an immigration crisis. But when they are coming to take our minerals...
There is no immigration crisis.
There is no immigration crisis. When they are coming in here, we are calling them investors. We need to ask ourselves about that framing. That language is very problematic because it doesn't put the hard questions on the table. And there's always a fresh...
Is someone trying to play safe?
They're not playing safe. They're playing on their interests, as my colleagues have said. They're playing on their interests. They're playing hardball on their interests. We, on the other hand, we are saying, open up, please come. You are investors. We are not calling them extractors. We are not calling them to order and asking them hard questions. And there is always a conversation that I think Julius Malema has always made up and said, the Europe should not think that they're dealing with our forefathers who allowed and entertained them to come. They're dealing with a different generation. I hope that this is a generation which will put hard questions on the table. Because you can tell me about Africa Forward, but if you're not allowing me to get to Europe, to access Europe and those markets, and you're putting lots of restrictions, then I'm having a conversation around the partnership.
Gordon, it seems that we are approaching this with baby gloves. No hard questions are put to task because clearly it's more of interest. But then the hard ball, for how long is it going to be played?
Victor, I like what Edward has put across as far as are we having our best foot forward? I think for the longest, Africa has never put its best foot forward, save for a few countries. And it is time. You see, in a conversation like this we are going to have for the next 2 days here in Kenya, these are very serious conversations that we should press hard on some of these countries. And how do we press hard? We press hard not by making noise, but in those boardrooms where negotiations take place. One, you must have the best people to negotiate for you. How do you get best people to negotiate for you? You must have best trained to negotiate, best diplomats, best foot forward. You must put your best soldiers in the front line to fight your battles. After that, then now, after you've negotiated, then you communicate what you've negotiated properly to the people. And that is one thing I've always said. There is lack of efficient communication from the government side on some of its doing and dealings. Because for how long have we even had a conversation about the Forward Summit, after Forward Summit? Every station, every other channel is rushing to have that conversation now. This is a conversation that ought to have begun nearly a month, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Putting questions to the ministry of every ministry, because we've already had, we've already signed a deal between the Kenyan Defense Ministry and French Defense Ministry. Have we been putting questions as media houses to the relevant authorities as far as this is concerned? If the government can't come out and clearly communicate what some of the things they have done, which some of the things look really great, then it's upon now the media industry to come out and press hard questions to some of these people. You realize, for example, I like what Dr. did mention initially, that there is this gap about job opportunities in Kenya. It is true. It is not just in Kenya. It is an African problem, an African challenge. If France is going to invest nearly 10 billion in just one sector, which is transport, to ensure that our metropolis is well networked as far as train service is concerned, the train that will be operating in Nairobi alone and its environs will bring in and out of Nairobi nearly 30,000 people between 1 and 2 hours. You can imagine what that means. So we must begin to nurture true diplomats who are going to fight for our countries. You don't need to pick some riffraffs to go and represent us. I'm not saying that is what is happening. But again, looking broadly, sometimes it's an African challenge. So it is upon the African leadership not just to look at how are we going to benefit from the Europeans and the Americans and the Chinese and all that. It is also upon us to check how are we going to do trade within ourselves. It is at this summit that the president must again begin to press so hard on African countries that we remove this visa nonsense among African states. Because look, trade among Africans is only at 15%.
Yes.
Intra-Africa trade stands at 15%. Inter-European trade stands at 65%. So meaning we don't even trade within ourselves. Why are we not trading within ourselves? Because we do not have the clear infrastructure to trade.
Okay, Dr. Let's before we take a break, we've had so many summits. You know, very soon, probably, the Bomas of Kenya will hold another summit. But the real question is the actualization of these summits. And I still ask a question, the implementation bit of it. A lot of paperwork will be done, signatures will be put, and you know, and all that, and the optics. But the real implementation and follow-ups is where the challenge is.
It's not even Victor. It's not even just leave alone the implementation part. What is the agenda of the summit? When you are going to hold a summit, first, do we understand what the agenda is? Because when you understand what the agenda is from the objectives after the summit, then you can realize what have you realized out of this? What have you achieved? What are the barriers of achieving the other objectives that you had put in place do we really understand, and who are these negotiators? Are we having a summit whereby we have, quote unquote, let's say I have my business needing it, so I have to make it like a national issue. I have to make it a national issue when I'm inviting these people and we are coming out on a personal interest. Yeah. Are we having Kenyans in mind? Are we having the real problems of Kenyans, so that when we are coming up with these summits and then you're able to tell Kenyans 1, 2, 3 objectives have been achieved, 3, 4 has not been achieved because of these barriers, but this is how to mitigate through the barriers. Do we have that in mind before we start saying the implementation? What are we implementing when you don't know what the agenda is? You know, when you say deal, what is a deal? What is a deal? This needs to be broken down for Wanjiku to understand.
That's basically what Gordon has said, communication.
What is, okay, we're having the summit and we are so proud and we're already making money and we are only seeing the Europeans, they are coming in. And then you see now in our country, just to add on what Edward said, you know, us when we are getting our visitors from Europe, from other states, we happen to be criminalized. Yani, you are just a criminal. Don't pass here, don't pass here. Do you have a letter? Do you have what? What is all that? Why are we having a colonial mindset and we are really saying no to colonialism? What is wrong with a visitor of another color coming to our country? Why do I become a criminal all of a sudden? You are bag, you are what? No, you are not. You have to walk. Are we going to really welcome this idea next time because you'll make me walk a long distance, leave my car wherever place, and then why are we criminalizing ourselves? What is wrong with visitors coming in for a summit? Yeah. Why is it that we cannot have order? These people going this side, just use this lane. It's okay. We are trying to, you know, but why are we having a colonial mindset that the police are having to stop you, check your mind? All of a sudden you're a criminal because visitors are coming in our country. That is a colonial mindset that should end. Number 2, like also he said, when we are going to Europe or other, maybe US or anything, bank statement, who are you going to stay with, give the direction, give the what. Those are the small things that break who we are. They don't bring out that we are out of the colonial time and now we are in this regime. We are in it as partners. Let's take a break. We are not in as vulnerables who need help or charity. Okay, it's 7:30. Let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk about the diplomatic and strategic leadership, you know, whatever is going to change out of that. We also have business deals that's being signed and so much more. And by the way, somebody's watching. The big brother probably is watching somewhere because this summit, 38 of state and 3,000 delegates. Somebody's watching. Right, Edward?
Over 600 CEOs.
Exactly. Someone is watching somewhere. What are they saying? Much more when we come back. Stay with us.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday from 10 p.m. and a rerun every Tuesday from 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
In a world where news is ever-changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
All right, welcome back. Staying with us, Edward Wanyonyi is here with us, and Dr. Evelyn Ogendo and Gordon Kachola. Now, let's come back to the conversation. Edward, I asked a question before we took a break. The diplomatic and strategic leadership that is being described through this summit alone, please take me through that.
Well, the idea here is that to repackage the French and the European conversation in Africa differently. I think because of the beating they have had in West Africa and North Africa, France wants to introduce itself.
Yes.
But also there's a conversation around also the whole dynamic to do with Africans who are in France, who make quite a big population, and the dynamics that actually look at French and engagement with the world. Because really, if you remove Africa from France, what remains? You tell me, you've seen their football team. When you remove Africa from France, what remains? So, if you look at the colonial legacy and the kind of organization and deals and partnerships and conversations around even the CFA that is actually running across most of the West African and French colonies, former French colonies, what remains of France? So I think France has looked forward. They have seen the conversation in terms of where the world is going, and they need to go back and re-engage itself with Africa. And so this conversation at the moment is about reintroducing France to Africa. And who is better placed than an Anglophone country? Who is better placed? A neutral player should be able to be put there. So that is at that level in terms of looking at new partners, new players within the France-Africa trade. It's just the same way we had with Britain when, Brexit happened. Britain had to come back and look at its former colonies and say, how are we going to play ourselves here? How do we sustain our primary industries and our primary engagement? So that is there. However, on Africa now to France, is to be able to look at the conversations around the primary trade arrangement and pacts that are there, and what Africa actually exports to France, and what kind of alignments they can have. And for me, what is important we are missing here is we have UNECA, we have the Africa Free Continental Trade Area and arrangement that is there. What are we looking at that as a strategic pivot for our trade? The balance of trade from what we are having and tending to France, what are we getting out of it? How is the import-export tariff arrangement? China has said, tariff-free. Can France say that? Can they really say that? Can they look at our eyes and say that? Can they look at our eyes and say, the same way we have a reciprocal deal with South Africa where we are doing, 3 months visa-free. Can France offer that to Africa?
Yeah. It's not the first time that France is having a deal with Kenya.
It's not.
It's not the first time. The Rironi Summit?
It did go through. It did go through because of fundamental aspects to do with how it was structured. And you need to tell me how many roads and highway projects France has done in any African country, end to end. You need to look at it and realize, and this is one of the things which, my colleague was speaking about, that when we're going towards restructuring some of these arrangements, we need to be able to ask ourselves hard questions. Do European countries, are they best placed when it comes to infrastructure projects? Or are they best placed when you're looking at industrial engagements? Are we looking at in terms of labor engagements, in terms of skill development? And then we say, when it comes to infrastructure, we look at other partners, because we have to ask ourselves, when you start a negotiation, and then in between, it is highly inflated to benefit that investor to the detriment of the person who is here, and you're calling that public-private partnership, then, I mean, again, Gordon said, are we having the best players in the room? So those are the dynamics we need to be able to ask ourselves in terms of when we're engaging with France.
Yeah.
And I would be interested to see what practical French companies are actually setting base, and how much are we actually opening up that market in terms of our trade arrangement, in terms of export and the balance there to France, so that we can be able to see if there is a balance here or actually it's just hot air.
Gordon, it's the geopolitical pivot. Someone is trying to hijack, or not someone trying to hijack. When you look at that, the signal, the diplomacy towards Anglophone Africa, when you look at Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria, and that shift, you know, we talked about the colonial masters, but now having that warm kind of environment, and, you know, environment between France and now Kenya is here. Of course, we've had several deals even in the past. We are yet to see some of them, whether it is happening and all that. But the geopolitical pivot that is going to be happening moving forward, what do you make of that?
Well, Victor, you come from a village. Allow me give this analogy. You come from a village. In the village, you have your own issues. This person may not be talking to that person, and the intricacies of a village.
Right.
But when you realize that you have two old friends who you no longer talk to well, what do? Do you stop there and coil back and say, okay, because we no longer talk well, we can only say hi, hi, and we pass one another. You coil back? No. You begin to look for new friends automatically, because you need to survive in a village. You need to get salt when you don't have it. You need to borrow maybe matchstick when it rains and you don't have your matchstick that day, matchbox. So that is what definitely France is doing. And who is best positioned diplomatically to do this in Africa? It is only Kenya.
Because are we neutral?
Why Kenya? Kenya is, we are blessed because of our geographical location, number one. Two, we've become a gateway and an economical hub. Not just gateway and economical, but also a diplomatic hub for the entire continent. Remember, it is only in the entire sub-Sahara, or not sub-Sahara, but the entire global south. It's only Kenya with a UN headquarter. It's only Kenya that has been having a lead in terms of reshaping the global conversation. One of the major global conversations we have today is a relook into the financial architecture. And who has been very bold and vocal about this? It is Kenya. Then you must look for someone who can also call people to order. Who can call people to order in Africa today? Diplomatically, it is Kenya. Kenya is viewed as the beacon of peace, a beacon of hope for Africa. But that notwithstanding, what does this summit really mean to this administration? It is not just a diplomatic gathering. To the Ruto administration and Kenya, this serves as an opportunity to begin having new or fresh investments, to relook into our past and possible future, and also explore, because we do not have the necessary tools and the technology to explore. Today, Kenya could be having minerals that we do not know. How do we get to know that we have some of these things? How do we get to know, how do we get to produce for ourselves? We are talking about, you know, Kenya generally has been in the forefront, championing for climate change and all that. Paris has been in the forefront, championing for climate change and all that. Climate financing is a big thing today. How are we going to get into it if we don't have partners? To me, this is a partnership kind of conference where we come together, we begin to speak. What do you have for us? What can we offer? What can you offer? It's give and take. In diplomacy, it can't be a one-way thing.
But what are we known for? You know, in business, you have to be known for something.
Well, we are known for greens in exportation. At least we export a lot of coffee, a lot of tea. Kenya is now getting into the French beans exportation. And yes, so we are beginning to export.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we must begin to talk about with clarity is the tariffs that are there. In terms of business, where can we get a reprieve? Because if you go to Europe, there's what we call the phytosanitaries. There are so many bureaucracies and hurdles that it becomes nearly impossible for you, a common farmer in Kanyadiang, to export your, because they say you need not to use this, you need not to use this, you need not to do this. All these phytosanitary agreements, some of them were way put there before even some of us existed. They need to be at least re-looked into so that we all sit on the table as equals.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then, Doctor, when you look at it, all of them are aware. The players, as he said, the players in the room. Do we have best players in the room? But even that, we have players in the room either way. Are they aware of some of these value chains that we have?
I don't know how, you know, even us saying we have the correct players, I'm not sure that we are correct or wrong. I think we leave it open. These players, are they really, do they have the issues in our country? Are they able to represent us by who we are truly and our challenges? That's the big question. And who are these players? Anyway, who are they? Who are they? You know, we are being represented. I don't know how somebody comes up. I don't know that it's hand-picking. I don't know what makes, let's say, for example, I'm there. I don't know, what did you consider when you decided let Ogendo be on that, in that summit, in the negotiating list? And what are we negotiating for? You see, I think we have with smaller gaps. You know, when you are learning, when you are doing the baby steps, and then when you are on the baby steps, and then they have not been held. You're not fluent in walking. And then somebody expects you to run. What am I saying? I'm saying we don't handle the small issues with the importance it deserves. Yeah. Because when our kid, when you are learning your baby steps, and you realize now, like maybe you're always in diapers and you are learning the baby steps, sometimes you find your kid is bow-legged.
Why are you referring to this one?
What I'm referring to, there are small pertinent issues that we don't take care of. Very small. Yeah. Very small, like what we were saying about the colonial perception. I think we are rushing into the summit. Of course, it's okay. It's by all means, it's a very productive initiative, especially for us as a country in Kenya. So what I'm saying is, there are these small issues like the visas. How do we attain our visas? There are these small issues when we are welcoming our guests, when they are coming, our foreign investors. Why are we looking so vulnerable? Why are we not comfortable under our own skin? Because if you are not comfortable under your own skin, even trying to bring out what should be solved is going to be a tall order. Because you expect that a summit should come up and we discuss, of course, high investment portfolios, like, you know, big things. Have we really conversed with what Europe can offer is not what another state can offer. What the partnership we can want from them. We first done this in investigations and analysis. But you cannot come to me, you want to partner with me in maize supply when I'm not a farmer. Yeah. When I'm not a farmer, or maybe I'm from another county whereby the soil does not allow for the maize. I think we have small things that we have not taken care of, and I wish this summit can solve it. Can solve the visa issue, why we are being asked for so many things to go to Europe. Okay. And then when we are welcoming them here, the people who are negotiating on behalf of Kenyans, can we know who they are so that even before the summit takes off, we can have a collaboration, like we are having a conversation. Yeah. Like what can we tell them? They are good in this. We join ideas and then agree. You talk about this, you talk about this, you talk about this, so that in one sitting we have solved our problems.
Doctor, that's what we call Sirikali.
So that's what and it's a humble request.
Okay. Edward, look at this way. Putting Africa in global, that position, global influence, where we are able to have a discussion ahead of even like the G7 summit coming up so soon. Is it giving us a head start that, you know what, as Africa, we are mature enough, we can have a conversation, and you must also listen to us, because when you come together, 30 heads of state meeting in the same venue, then you have a strong voice?
The ideal approach to this is you are able to work with the regional economic communities, your ESC, your SADC, your ECOWAS, your ECAS, to create an agenda that then from there it is shaped to go to the African Union. We have commissions, and those various commissioners should be able to shape that agenda and say this is the African position on a particular issue. Then it becomes easier for now us to represent that to the world. That's why you see we would have, an AU commissioner, or an ambassador for AU to New York, to the UN, for example, And we should have our diplomats in that space so that then they articulate the African position. But where is the challenge? The challenge is that among many African countries, they still have their agenda shaped to suit the colonizer, shaped to suit the oppressor, shaped to suit the external. So in that way, the interests of the common citizen is not shaped and influenced and packaged within that conversation. So we will go into those meetings, but there are those people who will actually be playing towards status quo and bowing to them and saying, it's okay, whatever you can do. Gordon talked about the issue to do with the market access, And you should be able to look at it and ask yourself, why is it in 2026, this year of the Lord, we are still selling raw materials? And we are not ashamed of it. Yet for them, they will bring to us processed. Why are we not talking to them to have processing farms and processing units here? Because it means that the value of the tea and the value of the sugar will actually double up and help our mothers, our farmers back in the village better. But we are still here talking about sending in the raw format. I think the only thing we should send to them in the raw format is flowers. For their Valentines and everything. But everything else, we should be able to have it in a processed format. You see, we should have it in a processed format so that we can have the economics of scale. Because if coffee lives here in its raw format, at the end of the day, when it lands to Starbucks in Europe, in Berlin, in Frankfurt, it is going to fetch more value to that person who is going to process it. So that is where we are dropping the ball. That one, some of our foreign affairs diplomats and interlocutors still privilege the agenda of the external. Number two, we have not built the capacity of our negotiators very well. And number three, also, we're coming in with a very inferior approach to global trade. We are not playing at scale. These projects that you're seeing here, for example, China is doing, are proof of concept. They are not necessarily considered as road infrastructure projects. Because road infrastructure projects, you should be talking about 3,500 kilometers and above, not 170 kilometers. What is that? Are we serious with ourselves? Why are we playing so small? We are talking about hydro generation should be at high levels. Wind farms that are actually doing close to 5,000 megawatts. Not what we're doing here, a wind farm that will do maybe, 500 megawatts, and you're saying that is a project. We are playing so small in an environment whereby the external understands the need for playing big. And they will come in and put that agenda. We don't have accounting.
I ask a question. Somebody's probably watching, Big Brother, watching this summit happening.
Yes.
And they have got intelligence.
They would have, and they will actually have. The question for me is, are we taking these lessons and going to negotiate for a next phase of AGOA differently?
Yes.
Are we going to negotiate differently with that? Are we going to use it to our advantage? World Cup is coming. It's going to be hosted by the Big Brother. What kind of strategic gains in terms of our sport economy are we going to actually get from that? Are we talking about sending funds to, the US during the World Cup And yet, instead of us looking at how can we be able to support our sporting fraternity, our sporting industry, create more stadiums, one stadium can actually create a lot of opportunities for our young people. Just one stadium that is done at global standards. So are we negotiating in that kind of conversation? So I think, as Gordon said, we should not be running towards hosting. We should be running towards planning before we host. And if we plan better, these kind of engagements, we can have few of them, but they will be very strategic. But right now we're having excitement of having how many numbers we are going to have. But then, after that, silence.
Now, that's the next question I wanted to ask, because do we usually have a follow-up? Gordon, do we usually have a follow-up? Because even after this, there's going to be a declaration, Victor, after the summit.
Number one, you mentioned something very crucial just a few minutes ago. Actually, world politics is run on espionage. So espionage is everywhere. Anyone who is interested in running world politics and world affairs must invest heavily in espionage. The spies are all over. Even in your own house, you could be having a spy. You remember the other time Murkomen said, we know where you are sleeping, and even who you are sleeping with. So you never know. So Big Brother could be, Uncle Sam could be watching, yes. Not could be, or definitely is there. You know, we have, for example, FOCAC, the FOCAC, which is the China-Africa Summit, coming up sometime this year. Do you know how many pre-summit events are already being held in China? This time around it is themed people to people. How many pre-summit events are being held in China? The kind of preparation they are hearing from people. You see, the bottom-up approach that was sloganeered during the campaigns, we need to see it right inside such things. Because before such things happen, the line ministries should go down to the people. You saw the other time, Ministry of, it was the Interior Ministry, running from county to county, collecting views from as low as the clan elder, the assistant chiefs, the chiefs. So when they're coming up with a policy, they're coming up with a policy that is a true bottom-up policy. It was so sad last time when, during the validation exercise of session of paper number 1, foreign policy session of paper number 1 of 2025, at the validation exercise, then not the drafters, but the technocrats who are leading this from the ministry are saying, we need to take this to the people. So meaning it did not come from the people. It is time that we really entrench the bottom-up approach to every aspect we are taking. If it is the summit like this one, do Kenyans know about it? What are they saying about it? Today, if you go to your village and tell them about the African Forward Summit, can they explain to you? Do they even know what is happening? I think that aside, moving forward into the future, where are we as Africa? Where are we as Kenya? I think Africa again needs to begin to negotiate, not as individuals. Yes, we have individual states' interests, but there is power in numbers. Today, if 35 African states, heads of states and governments in Kenya, tell President Emmanuel Macron that from today onwards, we have decided that there will be no French national coming to Africa with a visa. Only if we are coming to France without a visa. If we are still coming to France with a visa, then no entry for anybody from France.
You talked about interests.
Yes.
You talked about interests.
Exactly. So you begin to put your best foot forward and you talk in unison. There is power in collective voice, not a single voice. Because if you talk as Kenya, they will simply go to Uganda and talk with Uganda. But if you talk with a collective voice, then it means even your mineral resources, there is one rule and law that cuts across Africa. So it doesn't matter where they run to, where the investor runs to. They know if I have to go to Africa, there is just one particular law I will have to deal with across the continent.
Okay. Are we in some warm corner when it comes to such kind of relationships, Dr. Terry? Are we enjoying the the warm corner office in the global platform?
I don't think we are really very conversant with our space when it comes to the global phase. According to me, we are at a grasping stage. If you ask me, we are grasping. We are just in between. And what from Godona said, the keyword pre-summit. Do you know the pre-summit conversation? It is way too important than even the summit itself. Yeah, because you know you are welcoming people here. You have not strategically.
It's like public participation.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Correct. It's like public participation. If you ask me, the pre-anything, you see even weddings, people when they're doing weddings, what makes the wedding successful? It is the pre-wedding. Did we have such a scenario of the pre-summit conversation? Did we have such kind of collaboration? It's a no. Then I do not want to be a prophet of doom. I don't want to be pessimistic or an enemy of progress at this point in time. But I like to say these are the things that we overlook. I don't know, I'm saying we from which side because I'm not in government, but as a country, we overlook such kind of initiatives like the pre-summit. When you have a pre-anything, it means you are preparing for the main event that will be dependent on your conversations in the pre-event. Now, we do not have a pre-event. I don't know of any. Maybe it took place without maybe the public knowledge. And then from there, even as we have a conversation about the Africa Forward Summit, then we can be able to say, what are they going to discuss about this? What they are, so that when one person talks about, let's say for example, like me, I'm so passionate about the young people. There are a lot of energy that is outside here that is underutilized, that is turning that positive, positive energy to negative energy because of the challenges they are facing of joblessness in this country. Why are we not giving it a priority? Like, why are we not giving this manpower a priority? Because we are ever gracing big graduations. These kids are frustrated, but now we'll talk about we'll talk about other things that are not really answering these questions directly, so that when we say we are at this France and Africa Forward Summit, and then it solved this problem. You know, however much we can have 100 problems, but if such a summit can just solve one, can solve one and end to end, then that one can make more sense.
Let's take a break. I want to break the rule. Look at your camera and say, let's take a break, we'll be right back. Doctor, you've been here for far too long.
Oh.
That is camera.
Now let's take a break.
No. This is your camera.
Soon. Where am I talking?
This one, here.
Let's take a break. You are training me a new job, Victor.
All right. We'll be back. Stay with us.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
If he lives alone and something happens, there'll be no one to take him to the hospital.
How would we do it? We got one bedroom, a living room, and a sunroom. No matter what you do, that's it. How can we add another room?
Hi.
Hi.
You must be hungry. Lunch is almost ready.
Are you tired? Take a rest.
I'm fine. I mentioned to the dance club that you were coming. This is good for relaxing.
Oh yeah, from Andy Liu, a Bluetooth speaker. We use it for dancing. The sound quality is awesome.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, we are now descending. We are almost landing. Now, Edward, so are you looking forward to specific investment opportunities probably at the end of the summit and the policy outcomes discussed?
It will be a first if it comes out. The nature of these summits has been that they are done, and then after that, we move on to the excitement of the next summit. We don't follow through. If you ask me, you know, the last summit we had, the Africa Climate Summit we had here, you know, what are the kind of outcomes that have come? I mean, besides we have seen a number of our young people hugging trees, which is okay, but what tangible has come out of these things? So we are always chasing the next. We are always like on a high. And someone has sold to Africa the lie that if you have this global event with the elite coming and they benefit the local hotel economy, then you have achieved, which is unfortunate. In Europe, on converse, if you have a meeting there, you will actually see the outcome document will be taken either to cabinet, it will be taken to the legislation for implementation, practical implementation. Remember, you implement whatever you've discussed through the law. So it will actually be taken, discussed, put in law, and actually implementation follows up. And it will be tasked to a particular agency to follow through. Here, what happens is that it hangs somewhere. The ministry that is required, either the kind of the Ministry of Trade or the kind of Ministry of Agriculture or whatever inter-cabinet, interministerial task force that is right now shaping this, will just float on it. And remember, we are going towards an election year. So actually, even the impetus for implementation is going to be a bit of a challenge.
Will be somewhere else.
So that's the question. So when you ask me that question, whether we are going to have any issues to do with implementation, I'm like, based on past research, past performance, I'm a bit skeptical. I'll want to be challenged. Maybe we come next year at such a time and we see if we can be able to do an evaluation and see whether out of the many resolutions we're going to have, and we like these things, you know, communiques, resolutions, declarations. How many actually have? The other day, I was just looking and reflecting in the Africa Union 2017. We had a very interesting campaign called, you know, the Year of Anti-Corruption in Africa. And if you ask me right now, in 2026, how many countries have made progress around corruption in Africa? It's a problem. The other day, we were just talking about silencing the guns. But look at what is happening in Eastern Congo. You know, the guns are still more and more louder. So the question for me is that maybe we need to change our focus in terms of whether there will be implementation. Maybe we need to ask ourselves, what is this summit going to challenge us? And one of the things that we are saying in this, we need to ask ourselves, who are the kind of people we are putting in these conversations? And what are the kind of hard questions we are having? I would wish that we don't go with 18 agenda items. We just go with even 3 and say we are going to play hardball on these ones. It's going to be a give or take. And we just stick to achieving 3. Rather than each African country that is coming here thinking that they will have their agenda in and we'll have 30 of them, for example, and we're not going to achieve any. So it's not about the number of people. The basketball team with 5 players still achieves much, even than the football team with 11. It's not about the number of players and agenda items. It's still about how you're playing better.
Which team do you support?
In which sport?
Generally. We're talking about football.
Okay, in terms of football.
I know which team you support. Okay, gentlemen and lady, I want us to close this and close over to my colleague, Bernard Okumu, who is in, not so far away from here, the University of Nairobi. Part of the discussion is actually about the summit. Bernard Okumu, if you can hear me, I know the whole conversation today is going to be about business and all that, but we've been cracking some of the, you know, behind the scenes, what should be happening. Please just take us through what's happening at the University of Nairobi and as we head to KICC later in the day.
Yes, thank you so much, Victor Lowe at the Broadcasting House. And as you have rightly put, we are at the Africa Forward Summit, Africa-France Partnerships and Growth Summit that's happening here in Nairobi for the 2 days. It is a 2-day event that definitely will culminate tomorrow, but it is an event that will be characterized by a number of activities and events, with day one being segmented or set aside for the civil society, business leaders, youth and culture. And as you can see, it's all, everybody is meeting today. All the deliberations and the delegations, everybody's involved. Then day two will be a highly diplomatic event where we'll be having over 20 heads of state and the government who've confirmed their participation in this particular event will be tackling various issues that affect this particular continent. Remember, it will be also, you know, leaders, them who are. They'll be talking about what really pains this particular continent and how better they can move forward. You know, and African countries, definitely, you could be asking why Kenya, why this particular event is happening in Kenya, and this definitely looks like and sounds like it is a collective agreement, a collective decision that was reached by the African countries that will be participating.
All right. Okay. Bernardo Kumbu, they're reporting from the University of Nairobi. We expect head of state to have that open forum with the members of the public and even some of the delegates to discuss what is there today. Okay. So, Gordon, your final remarks. I mean, at the end of this event, we expect to have adoptions, as I said, about implementation, accountability, and measurable impacts. But you're so ish about it.
From the year 2023, the UN, when the UN took a vote, when African states did take a proposal or a bill to have a UN tax reform, and they were running away from the OECD, it was so clear that when we get together as a people, as the global south, as African countries, they actually defeated the OECD model that has been there for years. And now we are towards having a total UN tax reform.
Yeah.
What is so difficult in Africans coming together and speaking in one voice? Then, as we say, there is a follow-up to everything. As we do this, can we ensure that the people know exactly what we are into, so that people don't begin to question? I saw yesterday a former vice president and one of the longest serving foreign ministers in this country, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka's remarks. You know, I know he's playing opposition politics, but one thing that I asked myself, what would have Raila said? You know, you have to know when to expose yourself, when to retreat, when to attack, and when to speak positive of your nation. All said and done, as a country, we must be proud that this is happening here. We must get excited that this is actually happening. Our country is being recalibrated, repositioned. We are signing new deals, new investments, but we must put the government to task in following up every other deal. Yes, we know some of these things will not be immediate. It is not like a cup of coffee. If you need immediate cup of coffee, go to a cafe. But for this, it will take time. 3, 4, 5 years later, we will begin to see benefits. Those benefits will only come if we follow through.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, Dr. at the end of the day, we are waiting to see what's going to happen. Your expectations?
According to me, the key word here is measurable impact. I'm not expecting much, or I'm at a position of not expecting, because when you have high expectations, you get frustrated or embarrassed. And I really want to reserve myself to be more productive to myself. You know, when you peg that the summit is going to solve what I think should be solved. And then when it doesn't happen, then you are going to be broken. You are going to be broken. So I'm trying to be realistic to the fact that, and open-minded. I also don't want to put a lot of pessimism in it. I want to say, if it happens and solves a few of the problems that we are going through as a country, I'll really appreciate, and especially when the young people get an opportunity to put the knowledge they learned into a skill. You know, when you don't practice the knowledge you have learned in school, it means your skills are not, you have not had an opportunity to use your skills.
Yes.
And that is just my humble prayer for starters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Edward, it's not the first time probably you're sitting in a podium. What would you, if you're to sit somewhere there and give 2 minutes to have a presentation, what would you tell the delegates with all the presidents seated there as an African?
I would say, first, this is not going to be different in the sense of where we have come from as a continent. We need to ask ourselves, as we sit in this strategic moment, are we setting the right legacy for the future generations? And if we are going to depart from the Berlin challenge that we had, where the continent was actually partitioned and scrambled, are we going to have Berlin 2 happening in this kind of conversation? So I would be very keen to say that our focus as a country and as a continent needs to look at how we can empower our people by better negotiations.
Okay. All right, so thank you. I mean, this summit is coming at a time that Kenya is also enjoying some warm corner. I must say that we've had so many summits by this year, and last year we've had so many of them. But the implementation, measurable impact, that's what Wanjiku, at the end of the day, Wanjiku in Africa is waiting to see at the end of the day. Gordon Kachola, thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Evelyn Ogendo, thank you so much for joining us. Edward Wanyonyi, asante sana as well. Okay.